Brothers and sisters, we seek protection and safety and security in the only place of safety and security, Al-Mu'min, the one who is the giver of safety and security, who created us and blessed us with life. And we are surrounded with means and methods to try to put us astray from why He created us, to live out the divine purpose of gratitude and thanks, to be independently, consciously aware of and committed to and devoted to that which gives us a heartbeat in the first place. And that is our purpose in life. And so we are thankful and grateful for all of the many countless favors and blessings that we live in each and every day. And we ask Him to bless us on our journey with His guidance and His forgiveness as we slip up along the way. Ladies, if you can please not blockade the door, inshallah, if you could scoot over here, inshallah. You can go. I think we need to scoot over here with the ladies, inshallah. That way when other ladies come in, they're not blocked. So that would be a way to تَفَسَّحُوا فِي الْمَجَالِسِ يَفْسَحِ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. The Quran says, O you who believe, you should open up and make way for people to walk in. Then Allah will do that for you on the Day of Judgment when you're needing it. We shouldn't be shy of following the sunnah. I know the culture is that we put women in a separate place and we block them. But the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, women prayed in the back with no partition, barrier, or blockade of any sort in the example of the Prophet ﷺ. So we're trying to revive that. We live in a consumerist society. The society we live in puts your goals as the number you can put into the economy. How much money can you make? What is the value you add to Wall Street? How corporations can become rich? Many scholars of American politics and economy and those who have cross-reference discipline say it's a corporatocracy, because no congressman or president can make a decision without first consulting the major corporate interests of this country. And so one of the main fundamental aspects of that is entertainment. How much can we get you to be entertained? The concept of being addicted to a phone is intended. The more time you're on an app, the more they can sell to their investors. They're on my app, we can use it to sell them stuff and so forth. We can actually take their information and then things they do and say and monetize that to sell that. We can sell their identity to other people. Americans on average spend 6 hours and 37 minutes on some device, phone, computer, or television every single day. And that's not counting work. Imagine there's an 8-day work that many people work all day on a computer doing work. 6 hours, 37 minutes outside of that, the average American. And we Muslims want to believe that we're holier than thou. Well, we're just like anybody else struggling with this world and the devil that we face. We can't say because I have this title called Muslim, then that means that I'm some pious person. That means I'm safe from evil. We're all victims of the same crimes. The Quran warns us. وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَعِبٌ وَلَلدَّارُ الْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لِلَّذِينَ يَتَّقُونَ أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. And this worldly life, all it is play and a waste of time for many people. The hereafter is eternal. It is a true place of rest for those who are pious. Do you not use your mind? And so he says, do you not use your mind? We're being brainwashed all the time that intellect and knowledge moves you away from God and religion. But we see it actually quite the opposite. Because if you think about where everything came from and how it's so amazingly, beautifully organized, and then you study who Allah is and you study His descriptions and qualities and how He is and what He does and how that relates to your life and what you do, and you're like, wow, this is a system I'm living in. But I can make my own decisions to do what I want to do. Will I do what is pleasing to that which gives me life? Or will I choose to do my own path and make myself my own God with my own set of rules, which is the shaitan's path? And so that is the struggle we're all living in. Life in this world is a temporary place of discipline and work. Our main purpose in life is to prove our love and gratitude to the one who created us. to prove our allegiance and loyalty to that which gives us existence, that which provides on a momentary basis. قُلْ يَا قَوْمِ اعْمَلُوا عَلَى مَكَانَتِكُمْ إِنِّي عَامِلٌ فَسَوْفَ تَعْلَمُونَ مَنْ تَكُونُ لَهُ عَاقِبَةُ الدَّارِ. The Quran says to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to tell anyone who's challenging what we believe and why. He doesn't say, hey, believe and I believe as I believe. He says, work and I will work as I work. And then we'll see when we die who has the favor of the one who is eternal. That's the attitude of the believer in this world. We are passing through this life. The harder you work, the closer you get to God. It's planting those seeds. Hayya ala al-falah. Salah is about keeping that bond and connection strong to remind you that you're a worker. Falah is like the success. It's like the fruits yielded from cultivating the earth. Al-fallah is the farmer. He's the one that works hard to bury those seeds and cultivate and water and go out and make sure that the bugs don't tear up the fruits and the vegetables. And so he says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. The soul has been born in the body, and every soul knows that which will benefit it and that which will destroy it. It's basic knowledge. And so whoever purifies themselves from their selfish desires and wants, of their attachment to this world as some sort of eternal abode, that person has succeeded in their work. We are reminded constantly, لَقَدْ أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكُمْ كِتَابًا فِيهِ ذِكْرُكُمْ أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. We have sent you a whole book, a scripture, a reference, as we talked about before, notes to pass the test. It's a reminder for you. It reminds you of who you are, where you came from, what you're doing, and where you're going. And it's a reminder to you of how to do it. He says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ ذِكْرًا كَثِيرًا وَسَبِّحُوهُ بُكْرَةً وَأَصِيلًا. O you who believe, remember God often. Glorify and exalt Him in the morning and in the night. Keep Him in your focus, because that's why you exist. You are hearing because He is As-Sami'. You are seeing because He is Al-Basir. Your whole existence is functioning, deriving itself from Him. Subhanahu wa ta'ala, glory and exalted above all things. Our lives should be filled with this discipline and this work. We should educate ourselves thoroughly. We should remember God often. We should maintain a good diet and regular exercise. We should support and provide services to the needy, especially those who are oppressed or marginalized or weak or mistreated. قُلْ إِنَّ الصَّلَاةِ وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Tell people, my life, all of my religious actions, my prayers, my death, everything in between, it's all for the sake of and seeking the pleasure of God, who is the Lord and nurturer of everything in the heavens and the earth. What other purpose could I have in life? So the Prophet ﷺ said, نِعْمَةً مَغْبُونٌ فِيهِمَا كَثِيرٌ مِنَ النَّاسِ. There are two blessings that many people have failed with, and they lost. الصِّحَّةُ وَالْفَرَاغُ. Keeping to their health and using their healthy time in the best way, and their free time. The Quran and Sunnah are calling us to a middle path, a path in which the Prophet ﷺ in various ayahs and hadith will summarize them to say that there should be a regular balance between soul, body, mind, social interactions. There should be a balance between all of this. So the question naturally arises. I know many of you, as I'm saying what I'm saying for the first part of this khutbah, you're thinking, this is a believer, this is how it should be, and this is what we should do. But we all know we're not doing that, right? So then many of you are saying, but this is too much, it's not fair. Some of the realists, or maybe some of the secular liberal folks. That's too much, you're asking us to do so much. How can I just live my whole life doing that? What if I get overwhelmed with all this worship and all this religion and prayers and fasting and all of this and caring for the poor? Do I get burnout? Could I get a burnout? Did the Prophet ﷺ and his companions have entertainment? Did they enjoy themselves? Did they laugh and fun and play? What does Islam teach about entertainment? And so today is going to be a surprise that it's not the way many of you were taught. There's whole books and treatises written long ago, long before the West wanted to employ us as digits in their corporate entertainment system. They said, at-tarwih an-nafs, at-tarfih fi ad-din. These are writings from the companions and their followers. They said at-tarweeh is comfort, relaxation, enjoyment, removing your boredom. That's where we get the word taraweeh. The Prophet ﷺ did not even use the word taraweeh ever. He did not teach taraweeh. The Prophet ﷺ taught qiyamul layl fi Ramadan, and he did it and he practiced it. And he used to gather with the people in the mosque, and then whenever they had some problems, he didn't come on the 5th day or the 4th day. But Umar radiallahu anhu, he said, if we're just going to pray a short amount of rak'ahs, like 8, and we're using all this Quran, many of the elders and people, their ankles will get sore. Some of these new believers in our time are not as serious as we were as companions. So we need to make 20 rak'ahs, and after every 4 rak'ahs, we need to have taraweeh, times of relaxation, where we take a few minutes and just sit and relax and think and ponder and reflect and all of that. That's where this word comes from, to make it easier for you to do your prayers in Ramadan. And that was Umar radiallahu anhu. One of the great scholars who just passed recently, Allah yarhamu, Ibrahim al-Khuli, he said that the tarweeh an-nafs is things you do with your free time for the purpose of enjoyment, relaxation, and bringing balance to your life. And in his book that he wrote about this, he was a great Azhari sheikh, faqih. He was in Jabhat al-Ulama fil Azhar. He was a great scholar. He wrote a book on entertainment in Islam. And he said, Al-aslu fil ashya ibaha. He said, unfortunately, many scholars have gone to this, unfortunate monastic, monkish, priest attitude that the Holy Quran actually rebukes. And they want to tell everybody you should live all of your time doing all worship and all of this. And that's not even what we see in the Sunnah and the example of the companions. So he said, you should be entertaining yourself sometimes. And generally all entertainment is assumed to be permissible, as all actions are, unless and until you have an ayah or hadith saying, don't do that. That is bad. That leads to hellfire, such and such. And so the Prophet ﷺ said, in the hadith found in Bukhari, Ya ayyuhan nas, khudhu min al-a'mali ma tutiqun, fa inna Allah la yamil hatta tamallu. The Prophet ﷺ said in the authentic hadith in Bukhari, I will restate that, O people, do your religious acts and promote your worship and do whatever you do in your life according to your capacity. Because Allah does not get bored until you're bored when you're doing it. If you find yourselves doing some form of worship and you don't even know what you're saying or doing and it's not really some sincere act, you're just doing it, this is the rules, I'm supposed to do it, I'm checking a box. Allah is not rewarding you for that. You're not getting a reward unless your heart is committed to it and it means something to you and there's something you're gaining out of it. So don't try to go overboard. Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu has this beautiful statement. He said, give your hearts some rest sometimes, because if your hearts get overworked, they get blinded. He said, be wise with your hearts, because just as your bodies can get tired, your heart can get tired. And that's why there is actually some scholars, some well-known prominent scholars, that the hadith about fasting 6 min Shawwal, they're saying min Shawwal Ramadan athani, not fi Shawwal, min Shawwal, right? And so they're saying anyone who fasts 6 days in the whole year between Ramadan and the next Ramadan is getting Siyamud Dahr. And that's linguistically sound. It's just not the most common, popular, religious, hyper, let's do it all now attitude of interpreting religious texts. And so Abu Darda radiallahu anhu, who was known for all kinds of fasting and prayers and everything, he said, sometimes I spend time for personal enjoyment so that I may build up my strength and focus for my devotional worship. Meaning, if I'm taking some time to relax and have fun, then I feel like when I go into worship and doing the right thing and jihad and all of the great things of faith and practice, I now have I'm focused. But if I keep trying to do the same thing over and over and over, I lose my focus. The Prophet ﷺ was telling people that fornication is prohibited. And then one of the companions had the audacity, or actually he thought this was a normal question in his time, maybe not in our time for some reason. He said, well, if fornication is haram, what if I'm with my wife in that specific relation sexually? He said, fi bud'i ahadukum sadaqa. If you go sincerely to your wife, finding the halal and enjoy that to the best of your ability, then you get reward, good deeds for that as an act of worship. To enjoy this pleasure. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The way he looked at things, the way he answered people. May Allah keep us on the straight path and give us balance in our life. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. So the story of the Ethiopians, they had converted to Islam and they came to Medina and they came into the mosque and it was Eid according to some narrations, and so they started dancing around and spinning their, javelins and swords and all of this stuff. And of course, they're in the mosque. And then the Prophet ﷺ in the hadith in Bukhari, I say to you again, the hadith in Bukhari, authentic hadith, he said, Aisha, come here, look at mashallah what they're doing. And so what is he doing? Let's watch this entertainment in the mosque of people dancing around, spinning around with their swords, right? And then he said, when she asked, Ya Rasulullah, like she's thinking, yeah, maybe this is too much in the mosque. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, حتى يعلم اليهود أن في ديننا فسحة إني أرسلت بالحنيفية السمحة. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the Jewish people who act like you should be monks all the day and they're very sitting with their Torah like this, like now many others do, the same kind of thing. He's saying, let them know that in our religion is some relaxation time. You can watch and have entertainment even in the mosque and it's not a big deal. He said, I was sent with the pure monotheistic devotion that's also easygoing and open-minded. إِنِّي بُعِثْتُ بِالْحَانِفِيَةِ السَّمْحَةِ مِنَ التَّسَامُحِ. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The Quran says that the poets are misguided folk. But yet the Prophet ﷺ encouraged many companions to make and teach poetry. As a matter of fact, the Prophet ﷺ actually made a little minbar separate from where he gave the khutbah to tell Hassan bin Thabit to teach poetry in the mosque. He would just read poetry. Of course, all of it is spiritual. But many other people say, well, the storytellers. And there's all this written in the Islamic history about the danger of storytellers. If you really study it, it's really not that they're telling a story that's interesting, because of what we'll see. It's because they kind of peddle falsehoods and ideas that overwhelm people's focus in life. And then people really start to follow false ideas because of these storytellers. And so it says in the hadith in Sahih al-Tirmidhi, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا صلى الفجر جلس في مصلاه حتى تطلع الشمس فيتحدث أصحابه يذكرون حديث الجاهلية وينشدون الشعر ويضحكون ويتبسم النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من بينهم. As a hadith is Sahih in Tirmidhi, nobody questioned the hadith. Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, or they said about the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم that oftentimes after Fajr, that they would remember God after they finished their prayer, and then when the sun would come up, they would all joke around and talk about the days of Jahiliyyah and laugh and have fun and read poetry, and the Prophet would smile and laugh around with them. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Does that sound like most mosques in the world? You see what I'm saying? We kind of got caught up like other people got caught up. And the Prophet ﷺ said, you will follow the ways of the people of the book before you. And in many ways that's happening. Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyya in Madarij al-Salikin, his magnum opus on spirituality. I'm going to translate the best I can a very beautiful, powerful point he made under Qayyumiyatullah Azza wa Jal. That God is the one that is always كُلَّ يَوْمٍ هُوَ فِي شَأْنٍ يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرِ. He's maintaining and organizing every single atom in the universe at every moment, and He's taking care of everything. And then he talked about how that relates to us. He said, a believer seeks to make use of his or her time in ways that bring them closer to God, or will support them in the process of getting closer to God. Ibn Qayyim says, such as food and drink and marriage and relationship with your wife and your children, such as sleep or relaxation or enjoyment and entertainment. He says, whenever a believer indulges in these things, intending to give them strength and focus in their worship and avoiding sin, then those things become worship in and of themselves. Even if, he said, وَلَوْ بَلَغَ أَتَمَّ اللَّذَّةِ. This is just so you know in the Arabic. Even if it was the most worldly enjoyment they could possibly get within the halal, it still becomes worship because they're doing that to take some free time and enjoy themselves so that they can get back to their purpose in life, working as believers to do God's work in this world. So then he concludes by saying, it is not correct to believe that the best use of time is always in completely disassociating from and leaving worldly pleasures and enjoyments. And he said, Al-wasa'il laha hukm al-maqasid. The principle is, things you do that bring you to something carry the same ruling as the thing you're going to, for good or for bad. So if the reason why you're taking vacation and entertaining yourself is so you can, have some relaxation, and then when you get back to worship and studying the world and supporting the poor and looking into the needs of our neighbors and so forth and so on as a believer, then that will become worship when you do that entertainment and that vacation. But there are conditions. So the conditions that we have, what makes entertainment acceptable? Number one, there is nothing in the Quran and Sunnah that says that is wrong, that is sinful. And if there's a difference of opinion, you can't rebuke others, but you can follow what you're convinced with. Anytime there are differences of opinion among scholars on a matter, it is not for a common person who's not in a scholarly debate with another scholar, okay, to go saying, don't do that, that's haram, because I heard so many mashayikh saying so. If you know there's another opinion, just follow what you follow and be confident, and let other people live their life according to the scholars they are following. The second point is your intention. So when you intend to do entertainment seeking that I'm going to go back to a life of focus and worship once I do this form of entertainment. Like you set your mind, that's what I'm doing here. I'm getting some relaxation so I can go back and be a worshiper. As we saw with Abu Darda and Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhum. And then third, the environment. You can't go and have halal entertainment if you're at the bar or the club or the party scene or the pool where everybody's walking around naked or the beach where everybody's walking around naked. You can't go to water parks as a Muslim, okay? Oh, I'm going to look down. How can you look down? What are you looking down at? What are you doing there in the first place? Everybody's naked there. It's haram to be there in the first place. And so it cannot be themed. Whatever you're entertaining yourself is, I'm going to watch this movie. And the whole movie is about people drinking and smoking and lying and cheating and fornication and all that. Come on, man. What is this entertainment? No, it's about horror and demons and devils and possessions. Why are you watching that? That is, no believer would do that with their free time. There is plenty of cool stuff to watch. Other than that, that is not haram. This is the attitude of the believer. See, many believers thought it's all haram anyways. Everything's haram. And it's that mentality made so many people just start to do many things that are haram because they just thought, there's no way out for me. They were never taught what we're talking about today. And so they just said, well, Islam's too hard on people, and so I'm going to do whatever I do. But when you see there is a balance and there is a place where you can enjoy yourself. And I will conclude with this hadith as our time is up. And I was reminded like 5 times last week. So the Prophet ﷺ actually said, some acts of entertainment that you do seem like just entertainment and fun, but actually they are piety. They are worship in and of themselves. And he said, for example, archery. Because why? You will need to defend yourself. So getting a gun and going to the gun range is an Islamic thing. But you have to learn all the safety measures of guns because that's where a lot of people get killed. And horse riding. Learning how to train a horse and ride it in the right way. So the Prophet ﷺ teaching them something that's a very valuable skill in your life that will make sure you're protected and you have the means that you need. And he even said, مُدَاعَبَتُهُ لِأَهْلِهِ. Spending time having fun with your wife and kids, with your husband and kids. That is an act of worship because it's building good bonds and relationships with your family. And we know swimming and other things. These type of things, they seem like just for fun. If you go exercising, go hiking in the mountain, it's giving you good health. You see what I'm saying? It seems like that's just for fun, but it's also worship because it's something that gives value to your life that brings you into a better state of health. The Prophet ﷺ used to race with the companions and they used to encourage races and wrestling matches. Wrestling matches were going on in the mosque in the time of the Prophet ﷺ between the companions. Even one hadith is just mind-blowing because you know how they talk about that the Prophet ﷺ, he was racing Aisha one time, they went on traveling. So they're traveling and the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his wife are having a race, which you can't do in private. A race, everybody would see a race, right? So everybody's watching the Prophet ﷺ race his wife Aisha radiallahu anha. And when she was younger and stronger, she beat him in a race. But then she got a little bit older and she says, فَحَمَلْتُ اللَّحْمِ. Maybe I had too much sheep, meat. And so then he beat me in a race, and then he laughed in front of everybody. He said, Hadi bitilk. See, remember that time you beat me? Now I beat you now. How many imams would do like this with their wife? You see, I'm trying to communicate a whole concept of change that needs to happen in us as a people who claim faith. There's an attitude there's a whole array of attitudes and ways and mentalities that need to be adjusted, not because modernism, but because we've actually left the prophetic model, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Hanifiyatu Samha. So may Allah guide us and bless us on the straight path, preserve us on the straight path. Ya Allah, give us balance in our lives, strengthen our hearts, strengthen our minds, give us good health and our well-being in our mind, in our body, in our soul. Make our deeds sincere, seeking your pleasure. Give us the way of the Abrahamic model of pure monotheism and devotion that is easygoing and understanding and accommodating. Ya Allah, give us your forgiveness and your mercy. Make us resurrected in your contentment and bless us among the pious in the gardens of bliss that you have prepared for them. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad.